A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Spectrum. We are live on Radio 1 FM 90, broadcasting from the Central Building in the heart of our city, Kampala, but we are also live on our website, which is www.radio1fm90.com. Now, on that website, you click on the icon with the word Listen Live. You can still find this radio station on the different radio listening apps, which you can obtain from the App Store of your smartphone. You download, look for Radio 1 FM 90, and as long as you have an internet connection, you should be able to listen to us from anywhere across this globe. We do encourage you to be part of this discussion. Please do share with us your view. It could be a question or comment via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. The guest in studio will be Andy to respond to your issue. My name is Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, your host, and today we'll be looking at job creation and salary enhancement as campaign pledges. Well, the presidential candidates have continued to traverse different parts of the country. President Yoweri Museveni has concluded his campaign in the West Nile region, and he has now embarked on the Achauli sub-region. He started with a rally today, which was held in Amuru district. Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu of the NUP has embarked on the Bunyoro leg. Today he was in Kagadi, and tomorrow he will be continuing with the journey in the different parts of Bunyoro. And the other presidential candidates were equally in other parts, including Nathan Nandala Mafabi, who was also in the parts of eastern Uganda, where he continued with his campaign. One of the things that has actually come out during these campaigns is the issue of job creation. The National Unity Platform Party is pledging to create 10 million jobs over the next 5 years. President Yoweri Museveni and the NRM are also saying they intend to create more jobs through agri-based industrialization. They're also promoting job creation through household income, through the PDM. And they're also saying they're doing their best to address that particular issue. One other thing that has also come out, salary enhancement. The National Unity Platform says they will be increasing salary. For instance, they say a soldier or a policeman who earns lowest will be receiving 1 million shillings. And they have also pledged to pay teachers well, medical doctors, among others. President Yoweri Museveni seems to be hesitant on this issue of salary increment. Even today, as he spoke in Adjumani, he talked about the need to deal with priorities first, which include roads, health, education, among others. And then he says salaries can actually come later. He actually says public servants should emulate the UPDF, who have been serving for many years without pay or actually low pay. So we want to discuss this issue in detail to try and understand why is it a critical issue during this campaign process, and which presidential candidate is likely is actually telling the truth, is actually, providing critical explanation to this particular problem. I have two guests in studio today. Let me introduce Mr. Jonan Kandwanaho. He's a CEO and founder, Jonaki Holdings Limited. Is a strategic planner and economist. Good evening, sir. It's a pleasure having you for the first time on Spectrum.
Thank you, Anderson. Thank you for having me, and I must say that I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for hosting me.
It's a pleasure having you. Mr. Michael Aboneka is a lawyer, pundit on legal and governance matters. Always a pleasure having you, Mr. Aboneka, on Spectrum.
Thank you, Kenneth. Good evening, listeners.
All right. And very quickly, I want to begin with you, Mr. Aboneka. You have followed these candidates and probably heard their promises on this very critical issue of job creation and salary enhancement. But I should begin by asking you, why is it such an important issue to the extent that it features highly in some of the promises that are being made by the presidential candidates?
Thank you, Anderson. I think that start with the primary role of a state is to create wealth for its citizens and also protect that wealth. Now, there must be ways in which that is done. But also, that this, Uganda has one of the highest unemployment rates. We produce over 700,000 graduates every year to a job market which is less than 4,000. And that has been an issue, that everyone is asking for a job. Everyone knows in this country here that there is that saying which we say, There's that uncle who said that send me your CV, I'll get back to you, and they have never gotten back to them. So it's a big issue that everyone who is campaigning, one would want to know how I going to solve this issue. And I want to take it away from just saying jobs, but the issue of livelihood. And definitely people will say, we need a job, we need employment. But I think for me, it's the issue of livelihood, the well-being of citizens. As you running for office, what are you going to do for us as citizens? Because you remember one time people had campaigns that you're going to go back home with a kavera, every day. It means that you've shopped something. I think it was the Needy Party saying that everyone will have money in their pocket, which FDC also took, that you'll have money in your pocket. But the truth is that everyone in this country needs or must have resources to be able to do whatever they want to do. In this country, how many, I don't know, let me put it this way. How many of you are able to receive services for free? I don't know for any service in this country where I've not paid for as an individual. So because of that, and that the state is supposed to facilitate that this should be two-way, that the livelihood I should have, the economic empowerment I should have, should be able to enable me have a life that I would want to have as a citizen. Not just a bare minimum that, at least Mwebakatulo, or at least you have a sheet over your head. No, it should be that, what is this middle income status? And I think I asked this question the other day, that we do not eat numbers. When you say the GDP of Uganda is big and this, you're getting monies of a few individuals, dividing by those who have less than $1, and you're saying, the GDP is great. We do not eat numbers. Numbers can speak, but what does that translate? You can't say a middle income economy when even the Kampala itself, the roads are not navigable. You cannot say you are middle income status country when people's shops are flooding just here downtown. So when shops are flooding, but for you are saying, no, we are middle income status country, how are you creating wealth for your citizens beyond just the jobs? The Juakali, the informal sector. You can't solve that by, once in a while saying, I'm launching this circle. I think there is too much launching of circles, especially the campaign period. Maybe it's a campaign tool. You can't fight you can't fight poverty with money. You have to create meaningful livelihood that is sustainable for every Ugandan.
All right. Let's hear from Mr. Kandwa now. Well, first of all, we want to hear from you. Why do you think these issues are so critical at this time in our country, to the extent that they feature high in some of the promises that are being made by the presidential candidates?
Thank you so much, Anderson. Why these discussions are very, they have surfaced in a high gear. Look at the numbers. Over 70% of our population, they are youth, probably under 35. So for such a population, and just like he mentioned, you find that every year universities churn out about 700,000 students per annum. Of the 700,000, only 100,000 are absorbed into the job market, both informally and formally. So there's a lot of pressure on the government and even on the parties, because the outstanding cry of the population, which is the youth mostly, which comprises 70% of the population, is jobs. So they want a way out. So you cannot disregard this pressure that they are mounting on the government or even on the political parties. So what you mount pressure on is what the politicians will tell you. Promises come to our ears because of what it is that we want to hear. If jobs is the issue, as a politician, I'll come and tell you, I will give you jobs. But let's look at it this way. As a government, just like you mentioned, the role of the government is not necessarily to create jobs. It is to create an environment that can make entrepreneurs create businesses that are sustainable and they can create jobs. The major key thing is, have you created the environment? Jobs are not a political gift. They are an economic outcome. I won't give you a job because it's a gift, a political gift. It has to be an economic outcome. So I'll promise you jobs until cows come back home. But if I don't create an environment where businesses can create jobs, I won't deliver anything on that. So I think it's something that we need to take cognizance of, because the government does not have the jobs, doesn't create jobs. It is important to recognize that, and the population needs to understand that. It is the Look at the numbers. If you take the numbers of the URSB, they said they have registered businesses, 1.1 million registered businesses. Of those businesses, only 13% of the same. They are functional, but also thrive beyond 5 years, celebrate their 5th birthday. That means that's over 87% of the businesses do not stand more than 5 years. So you can imagine an economic crisis that we have as a country in terms of jobs. So the government should actually be nibbing such problems of saying, why is it that every business that starts cannot celebrate its probably 5th birthday? What is the problem? Is it an incentive problem? Is it a tax problem? Those are the things that support businesses to thrive. Is it an import-export problem? Is it a capitalization problem? Can we bring back the commercial banks, the Uganda commercial banks and all that? Those are the problems that actually get to be addressed by the government. Can they unlock the roads infrastructure? Can they unlock the energy? I happen to have traveled to some number of countries. And one thing that came across is that they push for cottage industries. Where, Mr. Anderson, in your village, if you're producing milk, you can actually have a cottage industry that processes that milk, from the actual milk to the yogurt, to the ghee, to the cheese, to the powder, like as a cottage industry on your farm. If I am producing a certain product, probably tomato, I can process that tomato to the final product, ketchup or tomato sauce, final product. But to do that, you need a road to transport those things. You need electricity. You need water on the farm. So those are the real problems that the government should actually be addressing, not promising jobs.
All right.
Let me share this lastly. I happen to do some work in the oil and gas industry. It is one of the industries that actually has the potential to employ as many people as possible. And the maximum number of people it can actually absorb is 1 million for all the entire period of about 28 years. There is no any other industry that can actually absorb or create jobs that are more than 1 million jobs. So these promises are there, yes, but the reality is government does not create jobs. And jobs are not an economic gift, a political gift. They are an economic outcome. Right. They have to come from an economy.
All right. We have two competing candidates. Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is promising 10 million jobs in 5 years, and President Yoweri Museveni, who seems to suggest that the priority should be elsewhere, and then maybe later. And actually, he says they will be creating jobs through agro-based industries and, PDM, etc. Who do you think is telling the truth, looking at the structure of the Ugandan economy and what we can actually achieve?
If you bank on the numbers, you look at over 65% of the 70% I mentioned, who are even in the informal sector, actually participating in agriculture. So I must say that the NRM has an advantage because it has been, in the government, yes, but also it knows it has structures in place that have afforded it the data. The other time I was on NBS TV and I was telling them that, look, some of these political manifestos have been formed by data. If you don't have the data, I learned of a certain politician who went in Usoga region, went and sourced for a diary for a given sub-county, only to reach there, and it was a white elephant.
There were no
the farmer could raise the hugest milk was 20 liters. The thing remained idle. It had to be transferred to another region. So it has to be based on data. So I must say that NRM has an advantage because it has structures, and part of its manifesto is informed by data from its structures.
Okay.
Now, on the side of the NUP, 10 million is quite hypothetical. Let me tell you this statistic. Over 40% of our domestic revenue funds wage, public wage, government workers. 40%. So if you're promising 10 million jobs as government, that means it's the government that's going to employ those people. So you're actually literally saying that the whole economy is going to fund the salaries for the workers. It's going to be capitalizing the bill, the wage bill, which is not sustainable. So to me, I think that 10 million jobs, yes, they're too much. I'm yet to see any industry in this government that can actually create those number of jobs. So I must say that, on your question, back on your question, is that government, the NRM government, the NRM party, has an upper hand, and its promises, whereas not accurate, but they are more realistic. Why? Because over 65% of our population is in agriculture. So if you're pushing agro-industrialization, that means the likelihood of creating a bit of jobs.
All right. Mr. Aboneka, your take on that?
I think for me, thank you very much. The very interesting insights there. You see, we have over 10 million political leaders that we have to pay monthly. Now, so you have 10 political leaders we have to pay monthly. You have so we spend over $1 trillion shillings per month in just wages. So if NUP is to tell me that, when they are given mandate, we are going to do away with all this big bloated government, and we've argued for that. That you see, there is monies that there's leakages of money that we can tap into. But politicians don't want to talk about the 10 million political jobs. They want to talk about these other things. But for example, if Turkey, whose GDP is bigger than ours many times, has a cabinet of 11, why are we having a cabinet of 82?
NUP is talking about a cabinet of 20 people.
That is also feasible, but I think even a cabinet of 10 can work. If Turkey can have a cabinet of 11, for us, if we even get aid from Turkey. So it's about priority. If you're able to say that, look here, we are going to, and I like my brother's discussion that a job is not a political gift. It is a result of economy. It's an economic outcome. So where are they going to put these people anyway? Where are they going to put the jobs? Where are they going to create the jobs? So they talk about agriculture, etc. I would rather say that we are going to deal with the unemployment and the poverty to this extent by reducing the expenditure into the public wage, the issue about the political leaders we have to pay every month, and then if you just went and did an audit on how many, I think this government is really, people are very excited about cars. It looks like every month they're buying new cars. If you just did an audit of how much we spend money in terms of cars, government vehicles, every project government car, everything government car. If you just decided to say, okay, we're going to cut money on this transportation, we are going to cut, and I think even Parliament has had those discussions. So there are places where you can actually cut money. But the point is, get that money. We talked about zoning in this country, and I've actually talked about that with my own father, these discussions of there are places that, for example, if we know that people are producing matoke and pineapples, etc. in Kangulumira and Luwero, I don't see any cottage factory in Kangulumira. People are drying pineapples on their own. There is no, I don't see it. Now, if you say Nakasongola and the rest, etc., people are into grains and things like that. The Chivoga does a lot of cassava and the rest. I see those trucks every day coming from Chivoga to bring cassava to Nakasero, or people are exporting it. By the time it reaches, it has cracked, then it is bitter, no one is taking it. So those people don't need a job. They're already doing something. They need an enhancement to the work they are doing in order to get money.
All right, I've now got the information about why NUP is promising 10 million jobs. They're actually saying by 2032 they will be leveraging manufacturing, tourism, sports, and the creative economy. They think in there they can be able to create 10 million jobs. Feasible?
I don't think it's feasible. I don't think it's feasible because unless probably that's a 10-year probably manifesto, and it will be good to do mid-term review once they're in power. But I think for me the most important thing is let's focus on the livelihood. How do we stop leakages? How do we probably we need to define the job, something like livelihood, because I find a job that it doesn't sit well with me to say we are going to create jobs for you and you'll be fine.
All right,
I can have a job of 1 million shillings. But with the economy that is doing badly, how much can 1 million shillings do for you when school fees for a child is actually 2 million shillings?
All right. Let's go on the issue of salary enhancement. I'm staying with you, Mr. Aboneka. I'll be coming to you, Mr. Kandwano. President Yoweri Museveni says no salary increment. There are so many other things to focus on. The opposition is promising salary increment. They're actually saying a lot of money is stolen from the government. They quote 10 trillion shillings annually. They talk about, a big public sector that needs to be trimmed down and resources, given to public servants who are doing a better job. Which side would you,
I think,
end up with?
I think I'll go with the NOP side, and I hope that the enhancement they're talking about is disaggregated. How? What am I saying? We once talked about a salary review commission that we need to review all this salary, because how you see there's a competition between the MDAs and the line ministries, and that's the reason why we had this apex. Let us rationalize, because an ED who is being supervised by a minister is receiving $10,000, by a minister who is receiving $1,000, by a permanent secretary who is receiving 2 million shillings. How is a person who is receiving 2 million shillings going to supervise the one who is receiving 30 million shillings? That disparity needs to be sorted, because I think for me, once you deal with the disparity, let us have the salary review commission and sort this mess. You see, your apex is good, yes, but remember what they did with apex? The reason why we are not rationalizing is to reduce jobs so that the government reduces money. But then the PS of finance says we're actually looking where to put all these 800 people that have been affected by apex. But I thought you are doing rationalization to reduce on the expenditure of salary. But now you're saying we are stuck also. We want to see where to put them. Now, a government doesn't function like that. The government doesn't operate like it's an emergency. I would agree with Noop to say this is what we are going to do. Actually, on the issue of teachers, if you're paying 4 million shillings everyone, let everyone pay 4 million shillings.
That's what they're saying.
I don't agree with the disaggregating in terms of the same line of profession. Minimum wage, where did we end? We're supposed to sort the minimum wage, and you see the point about minimum wage is about per scale. Teachers, lawyers, all these things in government departments. Did you know that even within government, there are lawyers who pay tax and others who don't pay tax? Within government, the lawyers at DPP don't pay tax. The lawyers at AG's chambers pay tax. But they are quiet. So, how are we going to deal with this issue of equity when even at this point we're having disparity? If I were government, it is wrong for the NRM to say they will not. I would rather hear NRM say we are going to review salaries and make sure that we deal away with the disparity. And that's what even our constitution talks about, equality. And some of us are already mooting ideas and already having instructions to probably go to courts and ask that why is this one so and not so? Because if policemen are not paying tax, the judges are not paying tax, all these other guys are not paying tax. If I'm working for the same government, in the same judiciary, why should I pay tax? All those are conversations we need to have.
All right. Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. We're going to go for a break. When we return from that break, I'll play a clip of President Yoweri Museveni so that we can hear clearly his stand on the issues of salary enhancement, and then we'll continue with the discussion. We are yet to get the views of Mr. Kandwanaho on this particular issue, but also your views matter. So do share with us via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. Let's take that break now. When we return, Spectrum will continue. We're glad that you're still with us on Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90, when we're discussing this critical issue, job creation and salary enhancement, as part of the ongoing campaign process. Candidates have been promising left, right, and center how they'll be creating jobs and also enhancing salaries. One particular candidate seems to be, slow on this issue of salary enhancement, and that is the NRM candidate Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. We're going to hear a clip where he talks about that issue, but we do encourage you to actually share with us your views via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. I have two guests in the studio. Mr. Jonan Kandwanaho is the CEO and founder, Jonaki Holdings Limited, a strategic planner and economist. Mr. Michael Aboneka, lawyer and a pundit on governance and legal matters. Now, let's hear that clip by President Yoweri Museveni, and then we'll continue with the discussion.
The most important things are peace, electricity, and the roads. And then on the social side, education and health. Therefore, all your leaders should agree that when we are budgeting, before we talk about any other thing, salaries of public servants, you have been hearing teachers striking, that they want more salary. But is it correct to pay more public servants more money when the roads are not done? Is that correct? Is that fair? We are not against increasing the salary of public servants. But first of all, peace, the roads, electricity, health, and schools. things, then we can add on. We in the UPDF have been fighting for no pay or low pay for the last 55 years because we could not demand high salary from our mother, Uganda, when we knew that the mother had no money. What sort of child are you when you come to your mother? You must give me more money, more money. You know, your mother doesn't have enough money because the money is public. The budget, how much money the government earns, you see it. It is in the budget. So therefore, I want us to agree that the roads must be, both tarmac and mara must be always in good condition. Why? Because the road affects everybody. The public servant, the one who has never worked in the government, all of us are affected. So let's start with that which affects all of us. And if there is extra, then we can do other things. But let's do the minimum first.
Well, President Yoweri Museveni there at his campaign rally that was held in Adjumani there, as he defends his stance on the issue of not increasing salaries. A number of things he talks about there, but some economists will tell you actually you need to pay public servants better in order to motivate them. Others will tell you actually we need to change the system. We need even to do evaluation of people in public service and things like that. But let's hear your view on this issue of salary enhancement. Mr. Kandwa now.
Thank you so much, Anderson. You know, it's quite interesting. Raising salaries without expanding the economy is like pouring juice in a glass that is broken, that has a hole, because the juice will keep coming through to the ground. Because look, you have not increased the envelope of the economy. So you're going to enhance the salaries. From where? Where will the money come from? As I just admitted, it is actually the private players, it is the manufacturers, it is the private people, the informal sector that creates the jobs that produce the money. So until you provide that environment so that you can have money as government from the taxes that you collect, then it will be a political statement. It will just be a popular statement, I'm going to increase salaries. I somehow tend to associate with what Anderson mentioned, with what Mr. Weneka mentioned, that if you're going to tackle it in the aspect of, salary disparities between government workers, they would partly agree with you. But even if you did that, it might not inform a 1 million shillings or 2 million shillings for every police officer. If you have probably 50 million or probably 5 million police officers, how much is that? Now talk of the army people. Now talk of other government workers. It is not sustainable. It is not sustainable. I earlier shared my statistic that Uganda's wage bill already consumes over 40% of our domestic revenue. So until you expand the domestic revenue, salary enhancement will just be statements. I want to associate with what the president said. Somehow this statement he mentioned that you need first to work on some of the infrastructure projects, hospitals, roads. You can imagine if I increase the salary of a medical worker, and this medical worker does not have a good working environment. This medical worker does not have the consumables to work on the patients. This medical worker does not have a good equipped laboratory to test the blood samples for the patients. I have done nothing. Still, my population is going to come to the hospital and they will still die, like they were even dying before. Even dying more, because look, this doctor is going to have a luxury, probably has more money. He can now start a farm in Zimbabwe. That instead of sitting here and there are no consumables in the lab, I'd rather go to my farm and dig. Yet now that because they have moderate salaries and a few things that are in the hospital, they can actually concentrate. So to me the question is not necessarily increasing the salaries, which is a good thing, but also you don't just speak high pay, but it needs to make sense in our economy. So you can imagine if I'm earning police officer, I'm earning 1 million shillings. Just like Baboneka said, 1 million shillings, and school fees averagely for a child going school is probably 1.5 million. It does not make sense. You have increased my salary, yes, but does that pay make sense in this economy? If the inflation is probably in the scores of 9%, what then happens? Does my money make sense? It makes sense to increase a salary in an economy that actually rhymes with the increment you're making. The salary that you can increase that makes me affordable. Let me share an experience. We happen to have a branch in Osaka in Zambia, and I liked what the new president did. So what this guy did is that when he came into power, he made sure that the commissioners, all the commissioners in government, were retired. He retired them. He said, look, you have made good money, You have been earning big pay. So from the money you've been making, go and start industries. Go and build factories. Us as government, we shall come and consume of your products. We shall support you. You know the plans you've been doing. If they have been supportive of agriculture, if they have been supporting of manufacturing,
You will thrive.
you will thrive because you're the one who drafted them. So you go there and also test what I've been going through. And I must say that, that thing, that alone, by retiring some of almost all the commissioners, because the commissioner is the highest technical person of the government. They are the ones who approve the plan. They know the budget. So you say, go there and do the actual things, bring your proposals and all that. We fund them. You build the factories, build those cottage industries, and we see how the economy will not thrive. And I must say that within even 2 years, actually civil servants, they have increased their salaries in Zambia. Because now there's productivity. So you need to push for productivity of an economy before you can think about salary enhancement. You need to think infrastructure. You need to think, there are those low-hanging fruits. Energy. I mean, if I cannot access energy, I cannot process my milk. I cannot access my agricultural products. If I don't have a road, I will even die before I access medical facility. So you can imagine. So I think that whereas increasing salary is a good thing, and it's very appeasing in the ears of the people who hear such statements, but there's a better sustainable way of looking at things. And I must say that, it is better to approach it that way than just promising, making promises. But it's a political game. That one we know. You want to mention what people want to hear. If I'm in a given area, campaigning in a given area where there are fishermen, I will say, I'm going to make you fish the whole lake without any repercussions. I will say I'm going to remove the regulation for limiting the nets they're using for fishing. Because it's what they want to hear. And until I get the vote, that's when the rubber meets the road. I don't think it's going to be happening. Right. Are they going to experience them?
All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Vaneka, would you like to chip in?
Yes, I think that, yes, it is true. I think the president likes infrastructure. And I must say that I've traveled this country, and I have to appreciate that, some roads have been done, etc. But it's because of the taxes we pay that a proper government will sit and say, you know what, we need to do this. But I've again watched the president several times. He seems to like to focus on infrastructure. Anderson, I can't be in power for 40 years, and I am still saying I want to do the minimum. I think that one is not acceptable.
We actually had him in the clips
Yes,
talking about how
minimum.
we should do the minimum.
You can't 39 years in power, and you're saying that let us do the minimum. Honestly, that's a vote of no confidence. If it were me, I would rather you say, okay, because you see every manifesto they talk about infrastructure. So after you've done the roads, you've seen some of the roads, especially in the east. You know what people are doing with them? They are drying their cassava and drying their maize on the road. What does that show you? Probably they need something where they can dry their cassava, where they can transform the cassava into something they can export. That's what they need.
Then you bring in PDM. PDM can be used
No, PDM is just giving people money to pay school fees, problems, etc. You can't solve poverty with a handout of 1 million shillings. I was discussing with my brother before we came here that, you see, if my problem is school fees and the incomplete dowry, and you give me 1 million shillings, what am I going to do? Naturally, you're going to go and complete the dowry and take pictures and put them on WhatsApp status, and then also you go and you pay school fees. So you cannot fight money. You cannot fight poverty. Just giving people money. We cannot distribute money. You see, some of these things, they are political tools. In essence, I don't think there is an economist who is going to say that this thing is going to transform us to, to the whatever income status country we need to be. The politics and the economics must speak. But over time, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, they are parallel. We say, let us put a moratorium on districts, they keep increasing. We say, let us focus on productivity. After COVID-19, they put money in UDB. Who followed up that money? Who got that money? How much of that money has made production to the economy? The grow money, you will just see a scandals. For us, we not receive the grow money. People wait for the president when they are campaigning, tell them we didn't receive grow money. We didn't receive PDM money. We cannot run business as usual. You cannot. So I think for me is that I think the NRM has to do retrospective. And I think that for anyone who is campaigning and they have been in power, they should first account before they promise. And as citizens, we should hold them accountable. Say, wait.
You have been accounting.
How?
You haven't heard about the manifesto delivery unit. Before we actually went into this election, they told us they had performed by 83%? 83%.
You see, again, I don't like numbers. The thing is that if you came to Kangumira and you say you'll give us a factory for pineapple, and you come back again, we're going to ask you, where is it? That's accountability. Because the road is already there. We have problems now with the power. I think that is also another issue we need to solve in this country. Power and water, it's like they hate Uganda these days. We need to solve that. We can't pretend of a country where people are doing every time, because what services are they? Every time they are doing servicing, people do not have power since May, and you want to transform those people into a rich economy. Those are the things we need to focus on.
All right. Before we hear from the listener, would you like to come in? I saw you shaking your head when Mr. Boneka talked about 40 years in power, and you're talking about the bare minimum. You want to?
I want to associate with his submission. Really, I want to associate with his submission.
What do you think has gone wrong?
What has gone wrong is basically the implementers. Because my assumption is, as a president, you do not participate in some of these implementation projects or implementation activities of the government. As a president, you give strategic direction. You're like, I am looking here. This is where we are headed. And then the technical officers at the lower level get their hands working. So I must say that's where it has gone wrong. And, associate with what it is that I shared in the Zambian government, where the guy retired commissioners, I says, go. These are the things that you've been formulating. You can test them out. Are they working? Are they working? So I must say that, what Awanika mentioned is very, very true. With this, you can't be in government. You can't be in leadership for all this long, and there's still that is a narrative. But as a president, he has good wishes for the country. He has shared good direction for the country. But truth is, what he shares leaks somehow. And does not get implemented on the ground.
Someone will tell you that he appoints the implementers. If he does not think they are doing a good job, why does he retain them?
But Mr. Anderson, whom do you fire and whom do you leave?
Don't remind me a statement which he made the other time when he said that if I arrest people, who will I work with?
So he knows that you arrest everyone.
It's most likely. Because if over 60% or 70% of...
Maybe that's why we need to have the performance contracts back.
Performance contracts.
Performance contracts,
people
yes.
have this permanent and...
The economy should be performance-based. Not the contract to be renewed, your contract should be based on performance. Then you can have a leeway to say, what have you done? Can you account for the years you've been in office? If you cannot account, then you cannot renew your contract.
All right.
So it should be performance-based.
All right, let's go to the view of the listener, and I'll read out some of these comments, and you will be responding to them. Good evening, Spectrum. For the issue of jobs, I suggest that those who are already employed now start sharing the pay, and they work for half hours. They have been working, then another qualified unemployed person works the second half. That method, I hope, can double the number of employed people in our country. That's Stephen in Mukono. I don't know how that would work. What they call it, unemployment or what? Job sharing?
Shared employment.
Shared employment. I don't know how that would be.
It could be shared employment.
Then we have another comment. Good evening, Kenneth. And I guess I want Mr. Boneka to talk about the RDCs and RCCs. ETC, what is the use of them? That is Grace Commander there listening to this show. And we have another comment here coming from Mawa Amaza Moyo, who says it's only agriculture which will basically create more jobs and propel our economy. By reviving cooperative bank and cooperative unions, all the industries manufacturing soap requires oil which can be gotten from cotton seeds. Coffee has good price worldwide, but see how our farmers are exploited. His Excellency President Museveni will never accept a minimum wage salary. Then we have another comment here from Okama Emmanuel, who is listening in from Mukono Municipality. He says, for a country which has been under one leadership for decades, as of pledges during campaigns, the opposition have all the mandate of making such pledges of job creation and salary enhancement since the situation calls for it. But as of the incumbent, who also doubles as the candidate, making such pledges will just be a mockery to Ugandans that after 40 years of power, you still talk of jobs, enhancing salaries. Politicians, especially the opposition, have the privilege to make those pledges. Please connect. Number of MPs to one per district, etc. That's Sam O'Kelly there with that comment. Then we have another comment here. Thanks for the program. If government practices frugality, there is enough money to pay living wage to the essential employees, e.g. teachers, medical staff, security, etc. Today, excessive expenditure goes to a bloated parliament, cabinet, political leaders in over 150 districts and cities, etc. Also, too much luxury and corruption by the privileged class. Look at COSASE, IGG, and OTA general reports, and you will shudder at how much this country is bleeding. That's a comment that comes in from Kimbowa Joseph. Responses. Mr. Boneka.
Thank you. I want to thank the listeners. Those are very serious comments, and we thank them. Let me start with the issue of frugality. I think, the adage that you should cut your coat according to this. The size of your coat should be according to the cloth you have. And that is true. We need to see how we close the leakage. And I was actually there thinking, and I've written about it, that our parliament is the same size as that of India. And India now is into 2 billion people. I think it surpassed India. They've been actually competing on that, on who is the biggest. Now, if India is 2 billion people, and their parliament is as big as ours of 45 million, what are we talking about? This parliament is coming to 600, and that's one of the issues we need to discuss. Do we need to create constituencies every now and then? The constitution is clear, Article 63. You only do that after forming a population quota. For long, Wakiso and the rest, they have many people but fewer MPs. You look at the region, how there's no region balance. It's just creating, people are creating things for themselves. Why is it that people have to die for an election because they have to be in parliament? Maybe it's time to restructure. That parliament was designed probably for 80 people. And my view has been, we bring back our districts to the 45, have 2 MPs, male and female. You're done. And then we cut the salary to say 5 million shillings, and that's it. And you see whether we're going to have the people running and cutting throats of others because they want to be, in parliament. So I don't think they're there for service. They are there others are there probably for service, but they know exactly.
It's a form of employment. Don't run away from that.
Actually, a form of employment. Career, I need to go there, and then I'll have to be treated in India and Nairobi. Nairobi has become the referral hospital for Uganda, which is also, by the way, something that is not good for a country to celebrate. The other point is about, RDCs and deputy RDCs. Did you know that in our constitution, that constitution does not provide for deputy RDCs? And that's something we've been talking about and mooting something about. And but when you go to the Local Government Act, you talk about there shall be such staff in the office of the RDC. Now the question is, in the way you look at things, is a deputy RDC really necessary to run the office of the RDC? Is he a staff or not a staff? Because the deputy RDC is also appointed by the government, by the president. So meaning that he is not envisaged to be a staff under the Local Government Act, because the deputy RDC position does not exist in the Constitution. And that's something some of us, the constitution lawyers, are going to push. The second bit is that all these things, you look at the whole district, like I said before during break, that you need about 149 billion shillings to birth a functional district. So there are many things there, LC5, LC this, and all these things, and the councillors, etc. We've had instances where the RDCs are stopping people's campaigns and all that kind of stuff. The powers of the RDC are well known and stated in the Constitution. So perhaps it's time to review what was the intention of RDCs. Why would I have a presidential representative in a district? Yet you're saying that I have, we are promoting devolution of government, decentralization, but you have a president who is in charge of a district. But then how are you going to let the cow be empowered? Perhaps it's time for us to ask, do we need army in parliament? Do we need personal stability in parliament? Do we need, and I actually urge you, we no longer need special interest group representation in parliament. As I wind up, all those are places of leakages where we can sit as a country and say, look here guys, we don't need all these things. All we need are clear-cut positions that are going to help us take this country forward, and not just creating jobs for people. Because you see, even if the next government comes in power, they are promising already people jobs. So I don't think that they will be the ones to steer this. As citizens, as Ugandans, we have been calling for national dialogue on many things, but even on this one, we need to agree and say, guys, we are spending a lot of money. let us go forward with what we are able to manage as a country.
All right. We'll hear from you, Mr. Kandwa, now as you close this discussion.
Thank you so much, Anderson. I'll talk a few things that Mr. Weneka didn't cover. I want to speak to one of the listeners, and I must say that I appreciate the views that they put across, quite rich and detailed. There's one listener that highlighted that, we need to increase salaries for essential workers. Truth be told is that, essential workers are very important. It is until a minister, God forbid, I think it was a story that was even running in papers or something, even on social media, with a certain minister who got an accident up country, and then went to the nearest hospital for a first aid support before they can be evacuated to probably Nairobi that Mr. Aboneka mentioned. And to get there was even no cannula to put on his arm. So that is the state that some of the things are at. So you can even imagine the worker who works there and probably is earning 450,000. They can even barely survive for a month without borrowing. What do you call of that person? And is they going to support someone to give birth? I've seen some of the medical facilities in some of the upcountry districts. A person is giving birth and the nurse says, you know what, you will sort yourself. Like, and that is brought about majorly is an essential worker, but the pay is a bit frustrating. But even then, the conditions that they work in, the support that they have is not adequate to afford them to apply what it is that they study. Some of these people actually have studied a bit. But he wants to use a cannula, but the cannula is not there. So he has to improvise with probably a toothpick, which might not do the actual work that the cannula would have done, or something like that. So, or a water bottle. So it is important that whereas we increase the essential workers, which is very important, it's also important to provide the essential facilities so the essential workers can become really essential. Or else you'll provide the increment and probably the essentialness might not be applied in the medical facilities. I'll speak last on the big government. You see, big government is hard to sustain, especially if the big government is not productive. It's high time, I think, we pushed for production rather than consumption. Mr. Anderson, our population is a consumerism population. There's less productivity, there's less production. We all consuming, and you can't blame partly the individuals. Because, as I shared prior, it is the role of the government to provide an environment that can actually give me skills that I can apply to be productive. The youth that we have, I've seen countries, Philippines, we've seen countries, even India, they're exporting human resource, technology. These guys are skilled, high-end, in system, technology. Countries are actually fighting for them. China, they are fighting for them. Skilled personnel, skilled employees. There's no any nation that is not looking for such skills.
Okay.
So we have the population, yes, but what are we doing with it? Right. It is an asset.
All right.
So to me, I think that, as I conclude, it is important that actually we get to support our population to be productive rather than consuming. All
right. With that, gentlemen, we come to the end of this discussion. I might thank you for sparing your time to be here to discuss this very important topic. We'll continue to follow the presidential candidates and the pledges that they are making, and then we'll have another round of discussion about one other critical issue. There are so many things coming out, issues of land, issues of corruption, etc. We'll have an opportunity to discuss them in the near future. But up next, I take you to the news desk where we're going to do the news in English with Miss Josephine Dagano. Thereafter, great songs and great memories will continue with the Soul Train from BB Jr. Until then, it's a good night.